Welcome to the RavensSpace on YouTube. My name is Jason, and this is RavensSpace Mailbag, where we answer your questions about the Baltimore Ravens. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. First, I want to say please subscribe to the RavensSpace on YouTube if you're not yet subscribed. I want to give a special shout out to our Patreon subscribers because without you guys, none of this is possible. Thank you guys for your support and all your help. Also, if you want to send questions in to the RavensSpace, please send them to TheRavensSpace@gmail.com. I'll have the email in the description below so you guys can help us and get some of your questions answered. Now we're going to go into the first question, and the first question is from Walter, and Walter asks, based on the two receiver positions left on the roster, I think this order makes sense. 1, Quincy Adobio, 2, Tim White, and practice squad Chris Matthews. What is your opinion? Thank you so much for your question, Walter. Now, first I want to talk about the Chris Matthews thing, get out the way. I do believe Chris Matthews is too old to be on the practice squad. There are certain requirements that you have to make practice squad. It's usually only for younger players in the league. So I believe Chris Matthews is too old to be on that squad. Okay, so now we're going to go into the main juice and potatoes. So first we got to look at how many receivers do we think the Ravens are going to hold on the roster. And so right now you have Brashard Perriman, Mike Wallace, and Jeremy Maclin, who will be 1, 2, and 3. There's no order to that, but they will be the first 3 receivers on the depth chart. So now you got to look at the back end, 4, 5, and 6, because I do think that 6 receivers is usually what the Ravens carry. So 4, 5, and 6, who do the Ravens carry? At 4, I really do think it's feasible to say Chris Moore. He is the closest to being ready, in my opinion, at the receiver position. He's had a year in the league. I think that he did play okay sometimes. He was very inconsistent, but I do think that the Ravens do like him. So I think he's the 4 spot, and now you have 2 players left for the 5 and the 6, and you have to have a returner in there. So it's going to either be Campanaro or Tim White. I haven't heard a lot about Tim White returning for the Ravens yet, so I would say that Campanaro makes this roster if he can stay healthy. Now, with Campanaro making the roster for his return ability, now you need to choose between Tim White, Chris Adobio, and Chris Matthews. You have other players like Griff Whalen you have to choose in between. I would say Tim White has the most potential, and he's showing the most ability to make good plays right now. So I would put him back there, and he's also a great returner. And for this thing, because you only have 6 spots, you have to take in the whole account of a player. Can a player help you on special teams? We've seen Chris Moore help on special teams, not only in the return game, but also in the punt block game. You have Michael Campanaro, who has been a returner, and you have Tim White, who can be a returner. So that's why I think they make the roster and leave a player like Quincy Adobio out, even though he's been making some good plays for the Ravens. So those are the 6 I have for you, Walter. Chris Matthews does not make it. Adobio does not make it, but Perriman, Wallace, Maclin, Moore, Michael Campanaro, and Tim White, they make it just because I do think that their return ability helps them out so much if they're in the game. Thank you so much for your question, Walter, and we'll move on to the next question. And this question comes from Anthony, and Anthony asks, since 2015, the Ravens have only won 4 road games. What do you think the team needs to do to at least be 500 on the road? Thank you so much for your question, Anthony. And the answer to this one is you have to be multifaceted. And that doesn't mean you have to be good at the run game. You just have to be good enough that your offense can play with some pace. You have to be able to control the clock. You have to be able to control the way you play. You have to be able to control pace. And right now, the Ravens cannot do that. And so what I would say is that if the run game gets better, then, for example, 3rd and 1, when you're winning the game, you don't have to pass it and incompletion, and now you give the other offense more time. Stuff like that, right? If you can be scary, you can do different things. If you can run the ball effectively enough, then you can do something and then come back and control the time and the pace with a big play. You can do things like that. And that's what offense coordinators are not paid to do. They are paid to get the right play call in, but they're also paid to control the game, right? John Harbaugh goes over to the offensive coordinator and he says, hey, let's take off about a good chunk of time here. Take your time with this possession. And then if the Ravens can't do that, then it messes up the pace of the game. And then that's how you see a lot of comebacks happen. Something like the Steelers, where the Ravens, score, and then the defense, gets scored on because they have injured players. They were on the field for a long time, different things like that. So you just have to play with some pace. I think you'll be better. If the run game improves, I think you'll see this record improve. Thank you so much, Anthony, for looking it up and finding the information. I think the biggest key is to play with some pace, and that's how the Ravens can get better. So thank you so much for your question, Anthony, and we'll move on to the next question. And this question comes from Charlie, and Charlie asks, how do you think Jeremy Maclin will help out the Ravens? Thank you so much for your question, Charlie. First, he's a great receiver. You can never have too much talent, especially at receiver. That's one thing. The second thing is that he will dominate that slot position. When he's in that slot, he will have other defensive backs going crazy. The slot really is the hardest position to guard as a cornerback because you don't have the ability to use the sideline in order to cut off some of the routes. So for example, if you're on the right receiver, the receiver number 1, and you run an out route, there's only so much space you have, right? Either the quarterback has to throw it on a rope, the timing has to be great, stuff like that. But when you're in that slot position as a cornerback, the whole field is open. They can go deep, they can go short, they can go left, they can go right. Again, if you're on one hash and you go to the left, you can go to the left another 20 yards or whatever, not 20, but you can go to the left for a long time, and it's tiring for a corner. And that's what I think Jeremy Maclin will be doing. He also get a lot of matchups with safeties, which is a great thing to be able to win these battles because he's in the slot. I'm super excited about him, and that's why I think he'll help the Ravens out the most, is his ability to play the slot and actually make Joe Flacco's job a lot easier, and make Brashard Perriman and Mike Wallace's job a lot easier because now they have a lot of one-on-one opportunities. And so that means you'll see Brashard Perriman go deep more because now he doesn't have to worry about the safety peeking in on him because the safety has to be worried about Jeremy Maclin in the slot. Thank you so much for your question, Charlie. And we're going to move on to the final question of the day. And this question is a good question, and it comes from Alex. And Alex asks, do the recent string of injuries reflect negatively on Harbaugh or put his job in jeopardy? Thank you so much for your question, Alex. And so I would say they do reflect negatively on him, but I do not think it's his fault. The natural inclination of people is that when something's going wrong a lot, they want to blame somebody, and John's the head coach, so you want to blame Harbaugh. However, I do think this is just a lot of bad luck at once, and you can't call for his head just yet. Again, he still has some key players that can help him make plays and make it to the playoffs. A lot of fans are getting a little restless now because we haven't made the playoffs in a while. These injuries keep on happening. They're not happening to other teams. Even within our division, the same hard-hitting division, they're not happening to the Steelers. They're not happening to the Bengals. At least not until the season starts. It's definitely not happening in the preseason. So what is John doing that other ones are not doing? I don't think that's the case. I just think that the Ravens have some bad breaks. I do think that John should look into the training staff just to make sure that they're doing the best, right? So for example, Joe Flacco got hurt lifting weights, right? It's important for a quarterback to lift weights. It's important for all players to lift weights. However, there has to be a person making the call how much this guy can lift, how aggressively he's lifting, when he's lifting. There has to be someone making that call in order to protect Joe Flacco, from being hurt. So I think John should look into that, but I do not think he should get fired over this. Bad luck is bad luck. Hopefully these players, who are out for the season will come back next season and play well, and the players who can come back this season will come back and be great. But we don't know. But do not fire John Harbaugh over this. He's a top coach. In my opinion, do not fire him over injuries that are not under his control. Thank you so much for your question, Alex. And that is it for today's mailbag. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe to RavensSpace on YouTube for more great Baltimore Ravens videos. Also, check us out on Patreon. You guys can support us. $1 counts, $1 helps, and it helps us get better every single day. So thank you guys so much, and please check out our Patreon in the description below. Also, check out RavensSpace.com, where we have great Baltimore Ravens stuff. We have great news stories. We have our podcast. Check it out. It's awesome. And then lastly, check out our cool t-shirts. Go to the RavensSpace t-shirt store. You can buy you a Play Like a Raven t-shirt. It's awesome. Do what you gotta do. Thank you guys so much, and go Ravens.